Always buy in bulk. It's the best way to save money, right? Well, not always. Hi there. I'm Carolyn Sherlock, and on this episode of the Boat Galley Podcast, I'll share one item that you might want to buy in small quantities when provisioning. But first, let's talk about our sponsor. The Boat Galley Podcast this week is sponsored by FastSeas.com. Plan your next passage using FastSeas. Whether you're after speed or comfort, FastSeas will find the optimum route to your destination. FastSeas, making weather routing simple. Use coupon code GALLEY for an exclusive 10% discount at fastseas.com. When you're buying for the boat, or really for anywhere, should you buy big or little spice containers? I mean, if you want to stock up, why not really stock up and get the biggest one that you have room for? Or are there times when smaller is better? For most spices, smaller is better, within reason. Spices in general lose their flavor when exposed to heat and humidity, and most boats have plenty of both. Things like chili powder, basil, oregano, and garlic are particularly susceptible. My experience is that in the tropics, they rarely keep their flavor for more than 3 or 4 months. Your experience may be different depending on where you are and how you store your spices. Well, for most of us, that rules out the monster restaurant-sized containers or large containers filled from bulk. I know, it hurts. They're far cheaper per ounce that way. But the large containers hold a lot more than regular-sized bottles, making it unlikely that you'll use up the contents before it has all the flavor of sawdust. Now, obviously, if you have a large family or a substantial crew, or know that you use a lot of a particular spice, you may decide that a large container is right for you. Spices that I use frequently, I buy in the larger of the regular size bottles. So buy the size for spices that I use in larger quantities when I do use them, such as chili powder, where I use a couple of tablespoons when I make a pot of chili. I get little jars for things that I use less often and that typically aren't used in great quantity. White pepper and cayenne are 2 of those. While I use them a couple times a week, it's typically only 1/8 of a teaspoon or less at a time, so a little jar lasts an awfully long time. Now, admittedly, sometimes I can't find a particular spice in a smallish container, such as the time that I found caraway seed in Loretto in the Sea of Cortez. It was a huge bottle that held a quart or more. I knew I'd never use it before it lost its taste, so I divided it up with some friends who also liked the baked bread. We never did find rye flour, but we learned to make almost rye with whole wheat flour and the caraway. It didn't quite taste like rye bread, but it was a good, different type of a flavor. Anyways, the next time you're tempted to reach for the big spice jar because it's the half the price per ounce of the smaller one, think when you really be able to use it all. Too often, I've discovered that the one that's cheaper per ounce actually ends up costing me the most since I throw a large part of it away. Okay, that's it for this episode of the Boat Galley Podcast. Hope you found it interesting, maybe learned something, and please subscribe so that you never miss an episode. We want to make your boat life better. If you feel like it, tell your friends about us too.